Before we start partial fraction decomposition, let's look at these two fractions. If I wanted to add these two fractions together, what would I need to do? Yes, I need to get the common denominator. So I'm going to multiply this first fraction by x plus 3. And I'm going to multiply this second fraction by x minus 1. So now my denominators are the same. Both fractions have a denominator of x minus 1 times x plus 3. Now we can combine the numerators. We're going to have 5x plus 15 plus 2x minus 2. We can simplify this further. 5x plus 2x is 7x. 15 minus 2 is 13. Divided by x minus 1 times x plus 3. Is that okay so far? Okay, so this is what you already know. Partial fraction decomposition means we're going to give you this, and you have to work backwards to go back to your two fractions. That's what we're going to learn how to do today. I'm going to give you this, and you're going to reverse the process and give me the two fractions. We're going to decompose this into two items, two fractions. So let me show you how we go backwards. This is what I'm going to give you. I want you guys to go back. So that means you're going to have two fractions. One fraction will have x minus 1, and the other fraction will have x plus 3 in the denominator. All we need to do now is figure out what will go in the numerator. The process is set the denominator equal to 0 and solve. What will we get here? A 1. So what we're going to do is we're going to ignore this part. We're going to plug in 1s. In the numerator, we get 7 plus 13, which is 20, over 1 plus 3, which is 4. So what's 20 divided by 4? 5. So that's what our numerator is. We'll do the same process for the second fraction. Set the denominator equal to 0 and solve. What will I get? Okay, so let's ignore the factor that will give you a negative, or that will give you 0. So we're going to ignore that one. We're going to plug in a negative 3 and a negative 3 in here. So we get negative 21 plus 13. What is that equal to? Negative 8 over negative 3 minus 1. That's negative 4. So what will go in my numerator? A positive 2. Since it's positive, I'll just put a plus sign. So if you notice, I got back to my original two fractions. So this is my answer. And notice that is what we began with in the beginning. So that's how you do partial fraction decomposition. I'm going to have you guys practice 4 problems before we move on. Next problem. Now, in order to do partial fraction decomposition, you always need to factor this denominator. So this will be x minus 2 times x minus 2. And how can we rewrite this? Exactly. We can write it as x minus 2 squared, since we had the same thing twice. Okay, so guys, whenever your factors are repeated, you're going to use a different method. We have a repeating factor. We have x minus 2 twice. So whenever it is repeated, you are going to write one with just x minus 2 and the other one with x minus 2 squared. Okay, now we need to figure out our numerators. We need to figure out what goes here and what goes here. I'll just label it as A and B for now. We need to figure out what goes in the numerator. Okay, what we are going to do, the process is to multiply this whole thing by your original denominator. So I'm going to multiply this whole thing by x minus 2 squared. So let's see what happens. I'm just going to copy this down again. Okay, now guys, watch as I distribute x minus 2 squared to each item. It'll go to this first one. It'll go to the A. And it will go to the B. So guys, look, this cancels with that. I'm left with 2x. This cancels with that. I'm left with a B. One of these will cancel with that one in the denominator. So I'm left with A times x minus 2. Okay? Now, you are always going to make x equal whatever would make this 0. So what would make that 0? 2. So we're going to let x equal 2. So guys, look, if I plug in a 2 for all of my x's, I get 4 equals, what's 2 minus 2? 0 times A, that's just 0. And then I'm left with B. So I figured out what B is. So let me go ahead and start filling in my answer. I know my B value is 4. We're almost done. We need to figure out what A is going to be. Now, it does not matter what you want to let x equal this time. So pick any number. 7, perfect. I choose 7. Okay, we're going to use the same process. We're going to plug in a 7 for x. The second time around, it does not matter which number you pick, you're going to get the same thing. So 2 times 7 is 14. 7 minus 2 is 5. So this becomes 5a. And what did we say b was? 4. Okay, so we're going to subtract 4 from both sides. We get 10 equals 5a. Divide by 5. What is a equal to? So that is your a value. So guys, you have to do this process. So this is my answer. This is my answer. I have to do this process when you have a repeating factor. When the denominator has a double factor, that's what you're going to have to do.